What's up everybody, welcome back to Make Quick Crafts, and today we're going to be continuing our D&D character series with the party's monk, Sixpaths. This backstory requires an interior build with a very fancy building, so I decided that I wanted to try and do a resin floor with some pink resin rocks within it. So to get us started, I'm going to start off by building a dam for my resin pour, that way we have no major monster leaks or anything, and it also gives me something to secure in all my pink resin rocks. However, I didn't have enough resin rocks as I wanted to be able to get the full effect, so I'm going to have to also pour more resin rocks. While the resin rocks were curing, I decided to go ahead and get to work on some of the stuff that I needed for inside the building. First and foremost is our stage. As you'll see at the end of the video, this build required a lot of trial and error, so there are some things that you might see me building in here that ultimately don't get used in the build. But I figured I'd wanted to show it anyway, just so you can see how this process isn't 100% perfect every time. This is actually one of the failed bits here. I tried to make a Sculpey clay, some kind of design into the center. I ended up going with just the nice carpet feel on there, but luckily one of the bottoms to one of the minis I had that I was no longer using had a nice insignia that I could paint up and use for the center of the stage. Once the stage was built, it was time to give the whole thing a nice coat of gloss black, and then paint over that bit with some gold to give it a nice, I don't know, opulent look. I'm not very fancy. And since our brothel is known as the Mother of Pearl, I thought, what other accents would you use besides pearls on your stage? So I tacked on a bunch of little mini fake pearls. Now that our resin rocks have cured, it's time to secure all of those within the base of the dam, and then go ahead and mix up and do our massive black resin pour. After 3 days of curing and hardening, it's then time to pull this whole thing out of the dam, and luckily not slice up any of my fingers on the safety glass, and then give the whole thing a nice sanding at various grit levels until we get a nice smooth surface to polish and give a nice shiny sheen to it. For some background, Sixpaths was an orphan discovered on the streets of Edena and given refuge by the madam of a brothel within the city known as the Mother of Pearl. The madam took the child in and employed her as a housemaid to keep the establishment tidy, while also allowing her to be trained in the art of dance by the ladies of the house. Next, it was time to start painting up the furniture for the building, and I decided to try something that I've only tried a couple times before, doing some gold leafing on some of the furniture to give it a nice shine of gold off of it. Didn't work out quite the way I planned, but it worked out cool enough, and I was able to paint over some of the, I guess, bit more dirty areas. I also got this really cool staircase off of Etsy from a seller known as Odin's Vault, which I highly recommend you check out the materials. The staircase itself took about 4 hours to paint, so I will not be doing that on camera. It was at this point in the build that I realized I forgot to turn on my camera for much of the wall building, including cutting out my cardboard walls and taping them off for the spray paint, so luckily I did manage to get the camera on to pull off all of the tape after the paint job was done to get these nice clean lines, so enjoy that nice satisfying effect. One day while working within the brothel, our young orphan was accosted by a group of patrons. Thankfully, at this time, another patron of the brothel took notice of the child's struggle and intervened, making short work of the attackers, including those who disobeyed the house rules by bringing weapons into the establishment. Afterward, the orphan's rescuer introduced herself as Taryn, and took the child under her wing, teaching her to defend herself. Once the walls were finished and secured and we started placing some of our furniture, it was time to work on an effect that I had really wanted to do from the beginning of this build. I started with just a bit of UV resin, adding in a little bit of purple pigment, and then mixing that in well and spreading it out to give it kind of just a nice splatter effect before hardening it up with the UV light. Afterward, I pulled that dried bit of UV resin up off of my mat and then secured it with a bit more of UV resin to one of my mugs that has been painted up, which is going to be firmly attached to one of my patrons' faces. After I got everything in place, I realized the building just didn't look fancy enough for something that was supposed to be a high-end brothel, so I started adding in a bits of accent just to kind of spice up the place. A little bit of gold trim on the edges here, some gems up near the ceiling, stuff like that. Taryn gave the name Sixpaths as a guide, as she saw 6 possible paths of growth for the child to walk, each with its own end. The child, while skilled and graceful, also fought with the rage and chaos of a natural force, thus earning her the surname Tsunami. Once all of our accents and figures were in place, it was then time to give a coat of black to all of our seams, and then it was time for glamour shots. Thank you all so much for watching. This was a really fun and at times frustrating build, but I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button and be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my future builds. We actually gained over 100 subscribers just since the last video, which is absolutely wild, and I cannot thank you enough. We have just one more D&D character backstory to do before I really start working on the rest of my backlog of wacky ideas, so you'll want to be sure to tune in for those. For now though, thank you all again so much for watching, be safe, and I will see you on the next one.